Well, the true believers in the Democratic Party are actually doubling down on their radical leftism, and they're moving even further to the left. And as they move to the left, their attempts to stop the mega mandate that you gave to President Trump when you elected him are becoming more and more embarrassing for them. And to be honest, I think I speak for you as well as me when I say it's really enjoyable to watch this. They seem really intent on using the heckler's veto. The heckler's veto is, of course, the most insecure form of censorship that exists, that is known to mankind. Think about a college campus event. If you go to a college campus event and there's a conservative speaker like me or anybody else, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, anybody who's on the Young America's Foundation speaker circuit, you'll go into this room. There'll be a podium and a mic and a stage. You'll be introduced. There's hundreds, if not thousands of college students in here eager to either hear what you have to say and agree with you or to disagree with you. There's the opportunity, this is important, there's the opportunity for them to come to the microphone after the speech and ask you a question to challenge you. It can be the hardest question that you've ever encountered. And yet, what do these leftists, these leftists, oftentimes students, although it's usually open to the public as well, what do they do instead of challenging at the mic after the remarks? Well, they disrupt. They yell. They try to drown out the speaker. And why do they do that? Well, it's not because they wouldn't have the opportunity to publicly state their dissent from your viewpoint. It's because they are so insecure about their own viewpoint, they don't actually think that they can disprove you. They don't think they can make their own argument and convince people of their own opinion. And so they use what's known as the heckler's veto. They're trying to drown you out so that nobody else can hear the points you're making. It's censorship, but it's the weakest, tiniest, most pathetic form of censorship. Now, if you're thinking, well, that reminds me of Congressman Al Green at President Trump's joint address to Congress. You're exactly right. That's what he did. The heckler's veto. He got the boot. This from J.D. Vance. This is like the best thing that I think J.D. Vance has ever done. Is you can tell that this vice president of ours, I would argue the best vice president of my lifetime, and perhaps even one of the best vice presidents in the history of our country. You can tell he's a good old boy from the Midwest, which I love because that's like something you'd see at a baseball game, something you'd see in a bar if some drunk guy got too much. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. And that's what J.D. Vance did when he was sitting behind the president next to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, when Al Green was angrily shaking his cane at the president. Great optics for the Democrats. Exactly what they want to be known as. Al Green looks homeless, shaking his cane at the president. Good argument. Good argument, sir. Well, he got the boot for attempting the heckler's veto during Trump's address. And he got the boot from Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who called the sergeant at arms and said, get this guy out of here. And now the whole House of Representatives has voted to censure him for his conduct. And they should. It's not appropriate behavior. It's not even just a comment that he yelled that you can kind of roll your eyes and say, just leave the toddler to his tantrum. Don't acknowledge this behavior. No. If you're going to disrupt to the point that the president has to stop his speech, you should face the penalty for that. But the Democrats, of course, and these are the people of Gavin Newsom's party, they're trying to stop the censure in Congress. Guess what they did to try to prevent this from happening? Guess what they did? They broke out into a song. Let's watch this.
It's adoption of House Resolution 189. The House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
He's still shaking his cane. He's actually just a brat. What are they singing?
The House has come to order.
Well, a choir they should not be.
What's that?
Wouldn't you love if Speaker Johnson just turned to the aide to the side of him and he goes, "What's that?" And I would like to believe that he's asking what they're singing because they're so bad at singing you can't actually even tell. They think that they're these like they're what is it, Tim? We shall overcome. Oh my gosh, that's so pathetic. My producer tells me they were singing "We shall overcome." Overcome what? What are you overcoming? Shake your cane a little bit more. I actually love it. I think that Al Green should go on every cable news show. He should constantly post on X shaking his cane because I don't think that he's going to persuade anybody. But this is their response. This is the Democrats' response. This is the best they can do. Well, of course, the reason that they engaged in the heckler's veto in the first place is because they have no actual argument. They cannot convince you that their policies are better than Trump's because they aren't. It's hatred of President Trump, pure and simple, which is hatred of you because you elected President Trump. They've got nothing else. They can't change their ways. They can't abandon their base, which is increasingly smaller. We are now facing in our nation something that I cannot remember ever facing, and that is we are facing an 80-20 situation. What is an 80-20 situation? An 80-20 situation is where 80% of the American people think that what Trump is doing is good. 80% of the American people support President Trump. 80% of the American people felt hopeful after watching President Trump's speech, his joint address to Congress. 80% of people want President Trump to doge the administrative state, to find the waste and fraud and abuse of taxpayer money and put that to a stop. And it's only a 20% minority who disagree with this. A 20% minority, and like the entire 20% are either in that congressional shot, shaking their canes angrily, or like crying like Rachel Maddow on air. That's the 20%. Now, Speaker Johnson recognizes this unique and unprecedented situation where Republicans not only have the mandate by nature of the fact that we voted for President Trump in huge margins, but that the American people right now, 6 weeks into the Trump presidency, are super on board with what President Trump's doing. He posted this on X last night. He said, President Trump's speech wasn't just a speech for the mainstream media. It was a speech for the American people. The way Democrats behaved was unserious. It was embarrassing. The contrast between our forward-looking vision and their temper tantrums was on display for all of America to see. Now, if you didn't watch the show yesterday that we did, I highly recommend that you do so, because President Trump's speech, we did watch that. And President Trump's speech was great and entertaining, and he did a really good job. But the reason why it was so powerful was not necessarily because of soaring rhetoric and, you know, and some kind of words, like highfalutin words. It wasn't that. It was because he used a tactic that I don't think has ever been used before in a speech of that magnitude. And it happened at the very beginning of his speech, where he looked at the Democrats and he said, it doesn't matter if I were to cure cancer or to solve all of our economic issues, you would never stand and applaud for me because you hate me more than you love your constituents. And so what he did for the rest of the speech after, and this was before the Democrats had refused to stand or applaud, but for the rest of the speech, every time President Trump highlighted something that you and I, 80% of the American people, objectively are delighted to see, the Democrats refused to stand and applaud. They didn't applaud for Laken Riley. They didn't applaud for Jocelyn Nungary, 2 women who were brutally killed by illegal aliens thanks to Joe Biden's open border policies. They didn't even stand and clap, for goodness sake, for that 12-year-old boy with brain cancer. I mean, the evil of these people. They didn't stand and applaud. They sat still in their chairs when President Trump said, every child, my message to every child in America is you are made perfectly the way that God made you. And Democrats didn't stand and cheer for that. It's just, it's so clear to the American people that we're facing a situation, a divide, a political divide that is not just left versus right, it is good versus evil. And Democrats are making that choice very clear. This contrast, especially between President Trump and the Democrats that night, was profound. And it's such a contrast because President Trump is articulating a very clear and very specific vision for the future of America. I don't remember presidents. I definitely don't remember this from Joe Biden. President Trump did this somewhat in his first term, but not compared to what he's doing in this term. Obama didn't do this. Bush didn't do this. Clinton didn't do this. Bush before him didn't do this. Reagan might have been the last president that articulated a vision as specific as what Donald Trump is articulating for the future of the United States of America. Now, the American people, of course, voted for that, for the vision that Trump is articulating. They want to see that vision implemented, not just that vision as soaring campaign rhetoric. And then we have Speaker Johnson. Speaker Johnson is correct that Democrats are embarrassing themselves. We enjoy watching it, and we hope they continue to do so. And what was great, of course, is that Trump simply let the Democrats speak in their own words. He didn't have to insult them, use ad hominems. He just let us hear them speak. And then polls and the election proved that the American people reject what the Democrats stand for. But all that being said, Speaker Johnson needs to be careful, and he needs to understand something. The people did not vote, really, for the Republican Party. The people didn't really vote for the GOP, especially as Speaker Johnson understands it. We, the people, voted for President Trump and President Trump's agenda. Trump was able to celebrate this because he alone has completed so many executive orders. But executive orders, theoretically, can be undone by the next administration or struck down in court, even on bogus grounds, as we saw last night with that Supreme Court ruling. Speaker Johnson needs to know that Republicans will only be able to grow their majority if they pass President Trump's agenda into law. And I'm sorry to say that that's a pretty big if. The American people are expecting results, and the American people are smart. So Johnson should not try to use America First language and then after using America First language, pass spending bills that fund leftist objectives or push for support for forever wars or amnesty or free trade deals that screw over the average American. We've said this before on this show, but America First and Make America Great Again cannot become the new family values. And what I mean by this is that in the wake of the Bill Clinton presidency, Republicans ran on restoring family values, protecting the sanctity of marriage, ending abortion, being morally decent public servants. But what actually happened after they promised all of that? Well, they failed to conserve the sanctity of marriage. They continued to fund Planned Parenthood. They didn't end abortion at all, really. And many of them were and are scumbags in their personal lives. And yet, even in the midst of their failure, they still tried to claim, I support family values, as the country went to hell in a handbasket. And the American people rewarded them for this hypocrisy by not voting for them. It took Trump's vision to not just save our country, but to save the GOP. And it will take the action of Republicans in Congress passing bills that protect our border, our language, and our culture to not only save America, but to ensure that we thrive for years to come. So my message to Speaker Johnson today is enough talking, get to work. Remember the theme of this show. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions leave a little to be desired.